Have you ever wondered what's the real deal about shooting photos in RAW? Believe me, it changes everything. Stick around to find out exactly why. So this channel is filled with all sorts of photography and digital media related stuff like website and tech stuff. And if you happen to like these videos, I would really be happy if you subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to be notified whenever there's a new video up. It would mean the world to me. So let's dive into the topic of RAW photography and why it is a game changer. I would even go as far as saying this is the most important camera setting that you can activate on any camera to shoot your photos in RAW. Shooting photos in RAW is a big game changer for anybody becoming more serious about photography. And this video is going to explain you how RAW works and why it is so powerful and when to use it and when not to use it. So let's start with explaining what a RAW file format is. RAW photos are basically unprocessed and unedited image data from a camera sensor. So basically it's just a bunch of brightness values that are saved into your camera. And why is this so powerful, you might ask? Well, first this means that there's a lot of more information saved onto your memory card than just saving a final JPEG image. Because JPEG images, in contrary to RAW, are processed and edited images that have a little less or take up a little less space on your memory card, but also, of course, lose information compared to the RAW file. So to quickly compare like the information that is stored in a JPEG file to the information that is stored in a RAW file, I want to show you a little graph, and usually a JPEG has 8 bits of color space per channel. So per red, green and blue there are 8 bit, which means there are 256 color values of brightness values that are being stored in the file. Which compared to a RAW file, which has usually 12 or 14 bits, there are up to over 16,000 values per channel. So there's like a lot of more information and a lot of better tones that are being saved onto your sensor. And this helps you to edit the file later on. I would like to know, are you already shooting in RAW? Do you know about all this stuff and are already kind of a pro? Or are you starting out and trying to figure out if it's the right thing for you? I would like to know, so let me know down in the comments below. So I've already explained to you that there are a lot of more information in the RAW file than in a compared JPEG file. But what is all this information good for? For example, when you have a RAW file, you can adjust the exposure and the white balance to a degree in the post-production. So when you're editing these images, you still can tweak the white balance, the colors and the exposure of the image. Whereas with a JPEG image, you have very limited space for editing the picture, especially if you want to go for a very stylized look. Having all this information in the RAW file has smooth color curves, and therefore you can edit to a much further degree than compared to a final JPEG image, where there's already been some information cut. So one important thing you need to know about RAW photos is that there's a need to edit them after shooting them, because you can't deliver a RAW photo. As it's called RAW, it's just a RAW file that is not made for publishing anywhere and can barely be displayed by anybody on the consumer side. So you need to take some kind of software to convert the RAW file into some distributable file like a JPEG or a PNG or something. Also, something that might be interesting to you is that usually you can't even like watch the RAW image without processing it. The preview that you see on the back of your screen when you're taking a RAW picture is a JPEG file embedded into your RAW file, which is also one of the reasons why RAW files take much more space on the memory card than just regular JPEGs, because there's a JPEG embedded in there and there's a lot of more information. So without processing the image, you can't even watch it. Most modern computers have some basic RAW processing software embedded, so you can view the preview, which is usually the JPEG, but in order to take advantage of the full resolution, you need some kind of RAW converting software. Usually the go-to software is Adobe Lightroom, which has the Camera Raw by Adobe embedded, which is their RAW converter. This software then takes all the proprietary formats by the camera manufacturers and converts it to a viewable file, and there you can do all the editing in the process of creating this viewable file. So the last question I want to talk about in this video is when to use RAW and when maybe not to use RAW. In my opinion, whenever you're serious about photography, always shoot in RAW. The only case where you might want to switch to a RAW plus JPEG, so both of them are being recorded onto your card file format, is whenever you need to deliver the JPEGs like right away. If you can't have like this extra step of editing afterwards. If you need to plug in your SD card and then send the JPEGs right out to your client, that's the only case where I would recommend shooting JPEG as well. In every other case, if you're serious about photography, shoot RAW. It's always better to have like the full resolution, full quality file on your hard drive in order to maybe edit the photo afterwards or whatever you want to do with it. It's always better to have the file than not to have the file. Imagine you go out on a really beautiful vacation, or you're out there in a remote place and out there in the night, and then you want to maybe tweak the exposure a little bit, but your JPEG falls apart. You always want to have the RAW file of the picture right there with you. It's nothing worse than having the greatest picture of your life and you can't edit it to the style that you want. So always shoot RAW. Only switch to JPEG plus RAW in case you need to deliver the files right away. And in all other cases, if you're serious, shoot in RAW. So that's my basic video about shooting photos in RAW. If you want to know in detail how RAW photography works or how the RAW file format works, let me know down in the comments. I would love to make a more technical video about the RAW file format because it's really interesting how it works. If you're interested in this as well, let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to be notified whenever there's a new video coming up. I would love to see you in the next one, and thank you so much for watching. See you next time.